Tonight was one of our most astonishing interviews. Beautiful young Jodi Arias describing how her ex-boyfriend, Travis Alexander, was murdered in cold blood during a home invasion, and how she managed to barely escape with her life.
The state of Arizona versus Jodi Ann Arias.
Now, 4 years later, it's Jodi Arias that is on trial for the very same murder, fighting for her life in a Phoenix, Arizona courtroom.
Count 1, first-degree murder, premeditated murder.
Tonight, we will take you inside the trial that has captured national attention and inside the mind of an accused murderer.
This is your chair.
With Jodi Arias' first interview, done with 48 hours shortly after her arrest in 2008.
It's been like weeks since I put makeup on.
An interview so important that it has been obtained as evidence by both the prosecution and the defense.
My name is Jodi Arias. I'm an artist and a photographer. I've always had my camera, always. So it goes everywhere I go. It was hard to tell Travis no.
Such a great person. We're always willing to help.
One of the few people on the planet that really, really had a good heart.
He comes kind of walking toward me like an arrow, and he sticks his hand right out and says, "Hi, I'm Travis."
He met a really cool girl. He was excited about her.
He wanted to be married. He wanted to have kids. He wanted to be the typical Mormon family.
It was a core piece of Travis's belief in not having any kind of sexual relations with anyone that you're not married to.
She tried being the perfect Mormon girl. And that didn't get him, then she tried the sex.
I think that she was just basically like a drug to him.
911 emergency. A friend of ours is dead in his bedroom.
I'm Detective Esteban Flores, and I'm the lead investigator in the Travis Alexander homicide case. One of the items that we recovered from the house was a digital camera. What we found was a series of photos.
These were all intimate, private moments between two adults.
There were several photos which were out of focus, dark. Those photos were of the victim, Travis Alexander, during the time he was being killed.
My brother was shot and stabbed multiple times, and his throat was slit.
It's the scariest experience of my life. It just was so unreal. It was like a movie unfolding. Horrible movie. I could think only that, is there some way that I could just get to Travis and get us both out of there, but it just seemed impossible. He couldn't even move. And I ran down the stairs and out of there, and I left him there.
It was a true whodunit right from the beginning. We had no idea.
I ran out the front door, and I got into my car. I drove forever and ever until I was in the middle of the desert. The rest of it's a blur. My name is Jodi Arias. I am being accused of murdering my friend Travis Alexander.
She's the one that did the stabbing, she's the one that slit his throat, and she's the one that shot him.
I'm Maureen Maher, tonight on 48 Hours. Picture perfect, the trial of Jodi Arias.
48 Hours. We'll be back in 90 seconds.
This was a very violent attack that took some time.
For the last 2.5 weeks, Jodi Arias has been sitting quietly in this courtroom.
His throat was slit from ear to ear.
Patiently listening to the evidence against her. But Jodi is no stranger to patience. She has spent the last 4 years in jail, waiting for her trial to start, and wondering just how she ended up here in the first place.
I've been sitting a lot in my cell, thinking, what a waste. You know, I did have my whole future ahead of me. I had everything to lose and nothing to gain if I were to kill Travis.
Travis Alexander and Jodi Arias seemed, by all appearances, to be a perfect match.
One of the questions we asked him, just totally, kidding around, is she really this nice?
And what did he say?
He's like, no, she's really this nice. He's like, I've never met anyone nicer.
Chris and Sky Hughes thought their good friend had struck gold when he found Jodi.
We thought they'd get married initially.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Right away?
Right away.
You couldn't not like Travis. He was a really cool guy.
Living just outside Phoenix in Mesa, Arizona, Travis was single, successful, and as a devout Mormon, spiritual as well. It was a good life for a young man, a long way from the life he had as a young boy. Growing up on the wrong side of the tracks in Riverside, California, Travis was one of 7 kids being raised by parents addicted to crystal meth.
Both our parents were pretty poverty-stricken, and our parents divorced when we were pretty young.
Travis's sister Samantha and brother Steve.
And at times, I've lived in a tent at a campground with my mom.
The children were rescued by their grandmother Norma, who took them in and introduced them to the Mormon community.
Travis raised himself from this darkness, and he became like this bright star.
Chris Hughes, a fellow Mormon, was so impressed with Travis that he offered him a job.
I liked him, brought him on board, started to teach him, train him, mentor him.
Hughes added Travis to his sales team at Prepaid Legal Incorporated, a company that sells legal services insurance to people who can't afford lawyers.
He was such a powerful motivational speaker that, he could move us to tears.
On the surface, it seemed they had little in common. Jody was raised in the quiet community of Wairika in Northern California.
My childhood was almost ideal. I have a big family. We're all very close.
But they found a strong connection in their drive to succeed.
We both had a desire to really do amazing things in our lives.
In no time, Jody began to make his world her own.
He gave me a copy of the Book of Mormon and just challenged me to read it.
She was moved by the words she read and decided to join Travis, converting to the Mormon faith.
We grew closer and closer, and it was a natural progression, I think. It was a serious relationship.
But this couple had a big obstacle to overcome, 400 miles of open road. Travis lived in Mesa, Arizona, while Jody was a 5-hour drive away in Palm Desert, California.
But Travis overcame that obstacle as well. He took his relationship with Jody on the road.
He called me up one day and said, "There's this great book that I found, and it's 1,000 places to see before you die." And so we began to check those places off the list one by one.
But it turns out that Travis and Jody were doing a lot more than just sightseeing.
There was an attraction, and it found an outlet on occasion.
That's a very creative way of saying it. It found an outlet.
Most young couples would call that outlet sex. But for Travis and Jody, as devout Mormons, sex outside of marriage was taboo.
I loved telling all my friends my brother is a 30-year-old virgin.
Celibacy is one of the basic tenets of the Mormon faith. One that, as far as his friends and family knew, Travis took very seriously.
It was a core piece of Travis's belief to not have any kind of sexual relations with anyone that you're not married to.
Taylor Searle, Brent Hyatt, and Aaron Mortensen knew and respected Travis as a close friend and fellow Mormon.
We all looked out for Travis. We wanted him to find and settle down with a great girl.
So it was important for him to be married to a Mormon and remain in the church?
Absolutely. That was one of his plans for his life, was to find a girl that was going to be a good match for him and marry her.
When I met Jody, she kind of announced herself as his girlfriend, and that was a surprise to me at the time because I thought he was, had interest in some other girls.
He definitely played the field.
And Jody was beginning to realize that as well.
There's sort of a distinctive feeling that comes when you have that sneaky suspicion that somebody might be not so monogamous.
Did you think he was cheating on you?
I had a suspicion. I grabbed his phone while he was taking a nap, and I just started reading his text messages, and I was really shocked with what I found.
And that's what basically ended his relationship, whatever it was, with Jody.
Well, not exactly. Shortly after their breakup, Jody made a surprising decision. She packed up her belongings and moved not further away, but right under Travis's nose to Mesa, Arizona. A move, she says, Travis strongly encouraged.
There were also some innuendos, I think, as far as we could still hang out.
Does hang out translate to have sex? Friends with benefits?
Sort of.
As far as anyone could tell, Jody and Travis were just friends. Their true relationship was still their little secret.
Nobody really knows what was going on behind closed bedroom doors except him and I.
This relationship was about sex.
It eventually became sex.
But Jody says that she was becoming increasingly uncomfortable with a sexual relationship that seemed to be going nowhere.
You love someone, and it makes it's hard to think, I really love this person, but I know I'm never going to be with him, and I know I'm not going to marry him. And so I knew that I needed to make some changes.
Early in 2008, Jody did just that. Doing them both a favor, she moved back home to Wairika, leaving Mesa and Travis behind.
When she moved back to California, that's when it really seemed to him to be a closing point where, okay, finally that chapter of my life is over.
But as it would turn out, the story of Travis and Jody was far from over.
Mr. Alexander did not die calmly. He fought.
Travis, he seemed genuinely excited when he told me that she had moved back to California. He said, Jody finally left.
With Jody Arias 1,000 miles away back home in Wairika, Travis Alexander's friends believed that he was finally done with her, once and for all.
One of the last conversations I had with Travis, he was telling me about the conversation he had with Jody where he told her, it's over. I never want to see you again. This is it.
But according to Jody, there was a big difference between what Travis said and what Travis did.
He would call me at night, and he would tell me the things that he would like to see happen when he came up to visit me, to put it in a G-rated manner.
It would seem that, for Jody and Travis, old habits died hard.
He was originally going to come to see me at the end of May, so we're going to see Crater Lake and the Oregon coast and hopefully catch a Shakespearean play.
You're saying you want to end this unhealthy relationship, and yet A, you're still making plans to get together and travel, and B, you're still showing up for sex.
Yeah, it was hard to tell Travis no.
But when Travis postponed his trip, Jody planned a road trip of her own. First to Los Angeles to visit some friends, and then on to Utah to spend time with potential new love interest Ryan Burns. Like Travis, Ryan worked with Chris Hughes at Prepaid Legal. And like Travis, he was also Mormon.
He was another rising star, just like Travis. And they met at a breakout session we were doing.
He and Jody?
Yeah, Jody and Ryan. And they had created this phone relationship.
When Jody hit the road on June 2nd, she says she hadn't heard from Travis and had no plans to see him. As it turned out, no one else would see or hear from Travis for nearly a week.
Oh my God. 911 emergency? A friend of ours is dead. We hadn't heard from him for a while. His roommate just went in there and said there's lots of blood.
On June 9th, Travis Alexander was found by his friends dead in his shower.
We got a phone call about 4 a.m. Said hello, and he said, Chris, something terrible has happened. And I said, what? And he said, Travis is dead. And, I remember just going numb.
The majority of the crime scene seemed to be inside of the master bedroom suite and the master bathroom.
It was clear to lead homicide detective Esteban Flores when he first entered Travis's house that he was going to have his hands full.
There's obvious signs of blood on the carpet. As you go in further, we found other signs of maybe a struggle or something in the hallway leading into the master bathroom. And once you go inside the bathroom is when you can see the body of Travis in the shower.
Months after Travis Alexander was murdered, there is still clear evidence of the savage attack that took place here. Evidence that was gathered during an intensive crime scene investigation, which included the discovery of a bloody palm print right here. Now, police have removed that section of the wall because they are convinced the palm print belongs to the killer.
But we spent 3 full days in that house because we did not want to miss anything that could lead us to the person that did this.
What type of evidence did you find in the master bedroom, the bath, that hallway?
Well, obviously we found blood, and that was very important. We also found hair fibers, we found fingerprints, and we found a shell casing from a bullet. We believe that Travis had been shot, and that shot was in the face.
But surprisingly, that wasn't what killed him.
What specifically killed Travis?
Well, the autopsy report says that we had one single stab wound, direct center to his chest, which hit his heart. And then he had a cut across his throat as well.
It would take Mesa Police Department's state-of-the-art forensics lab weeks to process all the evidence gathered at the scene. It only took a few days for the news to reach Jody.
A mutual friend called us, but he didn't tell me anything about Travis's state. He just said something is wrong, and I don't know what it is yet, but there are some police at Travis's house.
But Jody already knew what was wrong, because she says whoever killed Travis also tried to kill her.
It's like everything just stops when someone else is sitting there with a gun pointed to your head, deciding your fate.
When Mesa, Arizona police responded to a 911 call at the home of Travis Alexander, they discovered a scene of unimaginable horror and a puzzling collection of clues that would take years to unravel.
So the police now know what happened. They know that on June 4th of 2008, the defendant is there with Mr. Alexander. Even though they've broken up, even though she's in Wairika, somehow she's there in his house in Mesa, Arizona.
Back in 2008, Jody Arias had a very good explanation as to how she ended up in Travis's house that day.
Even to this day, I don't know that I've even fully processed everything. I have nothing but time on my hands to think. And that's when I really began to try and remember and relive that day.
Arriving in Los Angeles on the first leg of her road trip, Jody found herself once again in familiar territory, and once again faced with a familiar dilemma.
I called Travis and told him where I was. He, of course, said, well, you could always swing by Arizona and come see me, too. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that, and then I started thinking more about it, and then I thought, what the heck, it's not too far out of my way.
Despite the fact that she was expected in Utah the next day, just after midnight on June 4th, 2008, Jody Arias was on the road to Mesa instead.
So I arrived around 4:30 a.m. and he was in his office watching some videos on YouTube.
Travis and Jody talked for a bit, and then, she says, both exhausted, went straight to sleep.
We woke up around, I'd say 1 o'clock in the afternoon. When we woke up, we had sex twice, once in his bed and once in his office downstairs.
And then, just like old times, they pulled out the camera.
We decided to do another photo shoot where we were going to just get him in the shower, but these were waist-up shots, tasteful shots.
He was in the shower?
He was in the shower. And the shower was on. It looked really cool because of the way the water was frozen in the image.
Apparently, it was just a lazy afternoon of fun and games, until Jody says all hell broke loose.
I heard a really loud pop, and the next thing I remember, I was lying next to the bathtub, and Travis was screaming.
Without warning, Jody says someone or something had knocked both of them to the floor, leaving her dazed and confused and Travis badly wounded.
I looked up and I saw two other individuals in the bathroom, and they were both coming toward us.
According to Jody, she was suddenly face to face with two intruders, a man and a woman, disguised from head to toe.
They were both taller than me. They were covered, their hands, their gloves, they had long sleeve shirt on. They were in all black. He was wearing jeans. But they had ski masks on. I saw Travis was on the floor in his bathroom on all fours. And as soon as this guy left, I just got up and I charged her.
You charged her?
Yeah. And she fell over him.
Did she have a weapon?
She had a knife in her hand, and...
Had he been stabbed?
I could only assume yes, but I didn't see her stabbing it. He had some blood all over the floor, and there was some just coming down on his arms. And I started pulling on Travis, and I said, come on, and he kept saying I can't, and then finally he said, I can't feel my legs.
Before Jody could do anything to help Travis, she says that she was suddenly outnumbered again.
And the guy came back in and got really angry at me, I guess, and eventually he was holding the gun at my forehead, and they just kept arguing back and forth whether or not, to kill me.
It was a terrifying scene, and if what Jody says is true, what happened next is nothing short of a miracle.
And he pulled the trigger, and nothing happened with the gun. And so I just grabbed my purse, which was on the floor at that point, and I ran down the stairs and out of there, and I left him there.
It was an unbelievable getaway.
You get in the car, no one's followed you, and you drive away, and where do you go?
I drove forever and ever until I was in the middle of the desert.
But what is truly unbelievable is that Jody says she left Travis critically injured to fend for himself.
Did you call 911?
No.
Did you go to a neighbor?
No.
Did you call a friend?
I didn't call anybody or tell anybody.
Why would you do nothing to help him?
It was, I was terrified and I was scared for my life. And I think there was a naive belief that I could pretend like it didn't really happen.
Which is just what Jody did when she got back on the road and headed off to Utah. And she did finally call someone, Ryan Burns, not for help, but to say that she was on her way to keep their date. She made one other call as well, to the one person who was in no position to help anyone.
I thought, I'm going to call Travis, and it just went to voicemail. And I called him again, and it went to voicemail.
Was he alive when you left?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Because he was still sort of on his hands and knees the whole time until I ran from the room. That's the last that I saw him.
Jody spent less than 24 hours in Utah with Ryan and others before heading home to Yreka, never telling anyone about her horrific ordeal. To this day, Jody claims that she is consumed with guilt for leaving Travis behind.
You never called anybody. You never told anybody. You never did anything. And it wasn't until 5 days later that anyone even knew the guy was missing.
I'm really ashamed for the way I left him there. And I know that people will look at me and say, oh yeah, he really meant a lot to you, didn't he? By the way that you just left him there. Not only that, is that they don't even think that they think that this is a fabrication.
Jody would soon discover that she couldn't have been more right.
I knew that it was murder. I knew it was. I knew it. I knew something in my heart. I was like, something's really bad. And I immediately thought, Jody.
You do solemnly swear the testimony.
Over the course of the Jody Arias trial, dozens of witnesses are expected to testify.
I met him through church.
For both the prosecution
Please take a look at Exhibit 275.
and the defense. But from the beginning of this case, every question about who killed Travis Alexander seemed to have the same answer: Jody Arias.
Mesa Police Officer Tuck, can I help you?
When the Mesa Police Department began its investigation of Travis Alexander's murder, they had a house full of evidence and one very strong lead.
First cop I saw, I pulled out my computer and I said, this girl, I would check her right away.
Which is exactly what Detective Esteban Flores did.
I received information that she was on a road trip. It just happened to be around the same time period that Travis was killed.
Flores tracked Jody down at her grandparents' house in Yreka.
I called her in for an interview and asked her to come in for fingerprints and DNA samples.
Did you tell him the story?
No.
Why?
I think that I was wise enough to know that coming to him with that story at this point would be like implicating myself.
She had told me that she was never here. She had told me the last time she had seen Travis was in April. Well, I had obvious proof in my hands that she was here on the day that he was murdered.
That proof was found by investigators in, of all places, Travis's washing machine.
One of the items that we recovered from the house was a digital camera, and it still had a digital card in it that had been erased.
That had been erased.
Yes.
But there's erased, and then there's erased. The memory card was sent to the Mesa Police Department crime lab to see if any information could be recovered.
Our computer forensic unit called me up and said, you've got to come down here. I have some photos you need to see. And we were just all amazed.
What they found were dozens of pictures, each one worth more than 1,000 words.
Those photos showed Jody Arias and Travis Alexander in sexual encounter.
But that wasn't the only thing you found on there, correct?
Correct. There were several photos which were out of focus, dark. We were surprised to find out that those photos were of the victim, Travis Alexander, during the time he was being killed or soon after. You can't see his face, but the injuries on that person match the injuries that were on Travis.
Another shocking discovery? Every image was electronically stamped with the time and date it was taken. June 4th, 2008, the date of Jody's visit.
This gave us an actual time when he was last seen alive and when he was dead.
But investigators gathered a lot more on Jody than a couple of fuzzy photos. All of the physical evidence, fingerprints, blood, hair, point to the same person.
Those were individualized to Jodi Arias.
Tell me what happened. What is your theory?
Well, theory is that Jodi Arias showed up. They had some type of rendezvous, sexual encounter. During that time, they took photographs of each other.
And then investigators say Jodi viciously attacked Travis with a knife, stabbing him repeatedly.
There was obviously a struggle inside of that bathroom. Somehow he got close to the bedroom area, which is down a long hallway. That's when the last photograph was taken of him.
How does he end up back in the bathroom where you find him?
Well, we believe that he was dragged from that area back into the shower. Mm-hmm. We believe at that time that's when the palm print was left on the wall. It's obvious that the print was left with somebody having blood on their hands. And it's not just his blood, it's a combination of her blood as well.
Investigators say that blood, which was matched to Jodi's DNA, definitively connects her not only to the scene of the crime, but to the crime itself.
In many situations where a knife is used, somebody has blood on their hands, and it's not uncommon for somebody to cut themselves as well.
That key piece of evidence was good enough for the state of Arizona to issue a warrant for Jodi's arrest.
You're 100% certain that she got in her car in California and drove to Arizona with the intent of killing this man?
Yes.
Investigators believe that Jodi left her home in California with the gun and the knife that killed Travis, although neither was found at the crime scene.
In a crime of anger, such as this one, there were calculations that were taken beforehand.
As for motive, investigators believe it couldn't be clearer.
Jealousy is one of the main motives in a lot of homicides.
Is this girl crazy?
No, she's not crazy. No, she calculated this completely.
5 weeks after finding Travis's body, Detective Flores showed up on her doorstep in Wairika.
Was she surprised?
Actually not. She was not surprised. One of the things she said to me as soon as she saw me was, is there any way I can get my purse so I can get my makeup on?
She asked if she could get her makeup on?
Yes.
To be arrested?
Yes.
It was all very surreal. It was nothing like you see on a show like Cops. It was almost like an out-of-body experience, like it wasn't really happening to me.
But it was happening, and it was just the beginning.
It doesn't look very good right now, though.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
The person who committed this killing sits in court today. It's the defendant, Jodi Ann Arias.
Even after 4 years in jail awaiting trial, Jodi Arias had little trouble keeping herself in the spotlight.
Till he appeared and the soul felt.
Once again, Jodi caught the attention of the media when she won a jailhouse Christmas singing competition.
Well, I appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
But 2.5 weeks ago, when her trial finally got underway, Jodi's defense team stunned the courtroom with a very different tune.
Jodi Arias killed Travis Alexander. There is no question about it.
No masked intruders, no death threats, and no desperate escape into the desert. It was all a lie.
Jodi did not always tell the truth about what happened that night. She was scared. Scared about what had happened and scared about what she had done.
What Jodi had done, according to the prosecution's parade of witnesses, was commit an unthinkable act of vicious brutality.
As I entered the room, I noticed large amounts of blood on the carpet.
He has 2 major vessels in his throat that have been cut. He's going to lose a great deal of blood very quickly.
I noticed large amounts of blood spatter in the sink and on the countertop.
He's going to lose consciousness within seconds, likely, and then die a few minutes later.
Even though Jodi now admits to killing Travis, the prosecution still has to make its case for murder.
These are images that I recovered from the unallocated space of the camera.
Contained within that drawn square is a latent palm impression that was developed on the wall.
That's the bullet after recovery.
This is consistent with a .25 auto bullet.
There was biological material on top of the hair. The portion of the hair that did contain the root matched to Jodi Arias.
The million-dollar question is what would have forced her to do it.
Jodi's answer? An accusation of her own.
It was Travis's continual abuse. And on June 4th of 2008, it had reached a point of no return.
Jody now claims there was a dark side to her relationship with Travis, that he was often abusive and quick to anger. And when she accidentally dropped his new camera after taking portraits of him in the shower, it set him off.
And as that camera was falling, that was enough for Travis, because he lunged at Jody in anger, knocking her to the ground in the bathroom where there was a struggle. And sadly, Travis left Jody no other option but to defend herself. On that horrible day, Jody believed that Travis was going to kill her.
It is a challenging defense, one that, in addition to her story of intruders, Jody may have been considering when she spoke with us just after her arrest.
Was he ever abusive to you in any way?
I don't want to ever say anything bad about him or hurt his reputation at all. He lost his temper a few times, and it wasn't anything that really required me to, that I never felt my life was in danger. I'll say that.
Did you show the physical signs of it?
Yes. But I was able to hide it pretty well, I think. Arms, legs, torso.
And yet you still were drawn to him in some way.
One thing about Travis is, after we would argue, he was always extremely apologetic.
But there is no record anywhere of Jody reporting this abuse, and his friends say that is not the Travis they knew.
We've never seen him be violent to anyone or anything.
You ask any of his other girlfriends, never a sign, never a out-of-control temper, never even the thought to raise a hand.
Nothing.
In fact, we did ask Travis's former girlfriend, Deanna Reed.
Was there ever anything like that you saw in Travis?
Yeah, we had a couple of fights while we were dating, and just normal fights, and was able to control, his temper and, calm down, and we would talk about it, and so we never stayed mad at each other very long.
Another challenge for the defense? Explaining how Jody chose to drive to Utah to meet her potential new boyfriend, Ryan Burns, knowing she had just finished killing her last boyfriend.
When you go back to your house, what did the two of you do?
We talked for a while. I think we agreed that we were going to watch a movie or something like that. At some point, she was kissing my neck, I was kissing hers, but clothes never came off. She definitely seemed to be into the moment, and eventually we stopped.
And did you notice whether or not she had any injuries or cuts to one of her hands?
She had two small bandages, it seems like, on one of her fingers, or a couple of her fingers.
What did she tell you about those cuts?
She told me she broke a glass and cut her finger.
It's clear now that Jody was lying, just one of many lies she has told since killing Travis.
I didn't kill him. I didn't take his life.
Did you have anything to do with it?
I had nothing to do with his death at all.
Lies told during this police interrogation, which the prosecution showed in court, hoping to prove that nothing Jody says, including her claim of abuse, can be trusted.
What did you do with the gun?
I don't have a gun.
Were you at Travis's house on Wednesday?
Absolutely not. I was nowhere near Mesa.
And I have pictures of you in Travis's bedroom with Travis, pictures of him, and it's obvious you guys are having sex, taking photos of each other.
Are you sure it's me? Because I was not there.
There's so much evidence in that house. So much, and it all points to you. Do you have any recent cuts that are healing?
Well, my cat scratches me. Little things. These are all her work. You can see. This is her. That's her. I've got scars.
Enough about the cat, but why is your paw print in blood?
How can that be my paw print?
Because you were there.
If I was going to ever try to kill somebody, I would use gloves. I've got plenty of them.
If you'd never met him, you probably would still be alive.
That's true.
Yeah, that's because you killed him.
No.
Jody, you did.
I did not.
Jody, you can't convince me otherwise.
If Travis were here today, he would tell you that it wasn't me.
No. My job is to speak for Travis right now. And everything Travis is telling me is that Jody did this to me.
Finally, last Thursday, after calling 20 witnesses, the prosecution rested.
The state rests.
Arias's defense team is now scheduled to present its side of the story in the coming weeks, and then Jody's fate will be in the hands of the jury. But if what she told us 4 years ago is any indication, regardless of the verdict, Jody Arias will always believe in her innocence.
Yeah, if a conviction happens, I know that I won't be the first person to be wrongly convicted and possibly wrongly sentenced for either life in prison or the death penalty. And personally, if I had my choice, I would take the death penalty because I don't want to spend the rest of my life in prison.
Don't be fooled by Jody's sweet demeanor and her public speaking skills. She's a liar and she's evil.
When I'm judged for all of the things that I've done, there's a really deep sense of comfort to know that, that ultimately it's God's opinion that counts. Ultimately, it's His justice system that nobody can escape. And I'm okay when it comes to that system. And He knows, and I know, and Travis knows.